women's self-empowerment. She's an award-winning author, maker of Radiant Face 18, and dear to her heart, one of 3 co-founders of the New World Women. In 2015, she spent 21 days in silence in India, being taught by enlightened monks. Changed her life. She wakes up every morning and asks, how can I be of service from a heart of love today? She's happy to serve your highest and best today. With that, Dawn Morningstar.
Hi, everyone. Am I on? Can you hear me? Yeah, awesome. Well, before I begin what I have prepared to share with you today, I feel inspired to go to each one of you and feel a connection and give you a blessing of love. Would you all like that? Okay. I don't know what it is. I was just told that's what I'm supposed to do. So maybe it's just making eye contact and seeing the soul within, knowing that we are one and we are love. So what we're doing now is I was called to come and connect with each person and just show some love. I feel like we can all use a little extra love for these days, right? Blessings to you. So I hope I didn't screw up the live streaming here. Didn't mean to do that. Welcome, everyone. Here we are together. Someone had asked Gary if I only talk about things that are pertinent to women, and the answer to that is absolutely not. And then Gary did say to me, well, women's issues are everyone's issues, right? So I'm really happy to be here today. I feel like we are in such an interesting time. Confucius said, may you live in interesting times, right? So what does that mean exactly, interesting times? It's a challenging time for many people. And in our weekly connection in New World Women, we had written a message today that said for some people, it feels like a really jagged, raw time right now with what's going on in our country. And other people seem to be in some kind of a flow and seem somewhat unimpacted by what's going on. Or maybe they're choosing not to be impacted by it. And so today, when Gary asked me to talk, I had in mind that I wanted to talk about activating our inner light. And then he gave us an actual topic, and the topic is about active listening. And I thought those two things are very connected, our own inner light and listening to one another. And I think that's why I was called to come around and connect with each person, making that eye contact and that heart connection. This is what we can do with every single person that we come in contact with. This really is a time to let go of our fears of being bold. And by being bold, I mean bold enough to do something like that, where we are maybe, getting our groceries checked out, and as long as it feels comfortable and right, making eye contact with that person, and maybe even giving them a little bit of a blessing. So I want us to, in the time that we have together today, to be thinking about active listening, and we're going to come at it from a couple of different perspectives. So when Gary said active listening, I went to Lord Google because I knew I had heard the phrase active listening before, but I honestly didn't know exactly what it was. And I think he was really right to pick this topic. So I looked it up, and there are 5 aspects to active listening. And I always try to find acronyms so that I can remember steps of things. And this one doesn't really have a great one, but it might be helpful. It's PS, like postscript, PS, and then DAR. So PS, DAR. So the first part of this is to pay attention when someone is talking, right? Seems pretty basic. The second is to show that you are listening to the person. The third, the D, is defer judgment. I would say eliminate judgment, but I'm going by this true meaning of this phrase. Ask questions and reflect. So those are the 5 steps. Pay attention, show you are listening, defer judgment, ask questions, and reflect. So when we are doing this with other people, the pay attention part is giving the speaker your full attention and acknowledging what they are saying, using eye contact and body language. Years ago, I had somebody tell me that when I was talking with them, if I was really being a good listener, I would have no reaction to what they were saying. I would be neutral. And that just doesn't feel natural to me. I don't know about any of you, but the idea was if you're neutral, then you're letting that person say exactly what they want to say without any reaction from you. So over the years, I've decided that I'm going to be neutrally engaged. In other words, I'm not going to be like, yes, exactly. But I will let them know, kind of like what I did when I came around, where I just looked in your eyes and just kind of nodded, like I'm here with you. And so that's how I resolved that part. So, and our body language can show that we're paying attention as well, right? So for example, if we're kind of slumped over and kind of to the side and somebody's in front of us, they're not feeling that we are really engaging with them. So we want to really have our body language so that we are right there with them. And, as I said, my initial idea was to talk about activating our inner light. And honestly, I really do feel that when we connect with one another, that is a way that we are increasing our own light and the light of other people. And so, by the way, Tina told me that if anyone has any questions or comments throughout, that she will bring the microphone around, and then that gets seen or heard by everyone, including with the live streaming. So With others, with this active listening, you're going to show that you're listening. And again, that goes more into that idea of maybe nodding your head or showing that you are super present with that person. Plus, a lot of times, aren't we kind of thinking about how we want to respond to people? We can feel when people are doing that. We're not fooling anybody. And I don't know, this isn't exactly with the active listening part, but after 37 years of coaching people, I've picked up a few things along the way. And this idea of being able to be present to someone is truly one of the most honoring things we can do. It really, truly is one of the most respectful and honoring things that we can do. Plus, sometimes the reason that our brains are busy when people are talking is why? Because we're thinking of what they should be. What is it? Exactly. So that's the idea then, is that we don't want to be thinking in our minds as the person is talking. We don't want to be thinking, well, they should be, and I can't believe she's saying this thing again. The idea with this active listening is we want to go beyond hearing the person, and we want to create a sense of understanding. That's how hearts connect. Otherwise we're connecting at some mental level, and that's fine, but it doesn't go quite deeply enough. So the third part, that defer or eliminate judgment, isn't that hard? Isn't it really hard? And how did we become such judges of everything? And I mean harsh judges. How did we get to that place where we feel that we know best and we're going to judge the other person as not having it right or not, not doing it right? And I always come back to this. See if you can relate to this. I always come back to the idea that we don't know what's right for another person. We really don't. I know that sounds contrary, but how do we know that a person's sole agreement wasn't to come to earth and do this very thing that they're doing? And who are we to say you should not be doing that? Now, there are a few exceptions to this. If someone is in your care or a child, then of course you want to guide them. But if these are grown adults, then our idea is to listen to them, not to try to change them. And that's really hard. Do you have trouble with that? Like wanting to change people as they're talking, or wishing that they were doing something differently than what they are? Does that bring you peace when you do that? No, it really doesn't. And it doesn't bring peace to the other person too, because people can feel when they're being judged. We can always feel it, right? Any comments before we move into the next one? Questions or comments? And if so, we've got a microphone coming.
Raise your hand.
Thank you,
And
Tina.
thank you for contributing to my workout.
Well, when I'm dealing with my grandchildren, especially my older ones that have children, and I'm looking at how they're parenting, and I try not to be judgmental, so I phrase things like, well, this is an observation, it's not a judgment. But my granddaughter said, but it still feels like a judgment.
Yes. Yeah, very good point. Yeah, it's challenging because we want them to do it differently in a way that might seem healthier or better or whatever it might be. But again, we have to go back to, you don't know why that your great-grandchild chose them as their parents. It might be for that very reason to, let them eat McDonald's. I just made that up, or whatever it might be. That's true? Okay. But, it's like we don't know. I mean, let's fast forward it. We'll use the McDonald's as an example. Say that you believe that children should be given very healthy, organic food, right? And you have someone in your life who's feeding the child McDonald's or what you consider not healthy food. Yes, we would like it to be different, but we really don't have any control over that. We literally have no control over it. And how do we know that that child who's getting that junky food isn't going to grow up someday and say, I don't like this kind of food for myself? And who knows, they might become like a master gardener of organic foods. We don't know. Because Jerry and Esther Hicks a lot of times would talk about contrast, that we would have something, say, less desirable in our lives that catapults us into something that is better and more desirable. So I think it all comes down to trust, which is really hard, but we have to trust that there is some greater plan than what our brain thinks, oh, it should be this way. We have to stop shoulding on ourselves and shoulding on others. It just makes us a little crazy, I think. And we don't need that right now. We don't need that ever, but we especially don't need that right now. So, okay. So the judgment part, we've kind of gone through. And then asking questions. Asking questions, like really that you care, like that you're curious about that person. Let's do an example. I think examples are always a good thing. Is anyone here struggling with any kind of a person that you're communicating with, and you would like, you have an example? Does anybody have an example? Okay, yeah. Oh, wait, hold on. We got a microphone coming.
There is one, among others, there's one person in this congregation that I particularly like. And I asked about, somehow it came out what our political choices were. Mm-hmm. And I was saying what was wrong with that particular candidate, and he was saying, oh, no, it's because of this. And then I said another thing, I said, oh, no, it's because of that. And I'm thinking, what do you do when somebody starts making excuses for something? I felt kind of stuck. So I just decided to let it go. And I guess the lesson from there is, the best person in the world can make choices that you don't like at all.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the people I admire.
Yes.
So
yes.
It taught me that, hey, it's not just the villains who choose villains.
Right.
So,
yeah.
whoops. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that you bring up a really good point, because that's on everybody's minds pretty much these days, or many people's minds.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that people have suggested, I don't know that this works, but I don't know that it doesn't either. And the question can be something like, what's underneath this for you? Asking, really, what is it that you care about that this political candidate has, and really focus on that part. But in regard to changing anyone's mind, I think we're way beyond that right now. I don't think that is going to happen. And someone just sent me an article. I haven't had time to read it yet, but I read the first paragraph and the title of it, and it's how liberals and conservatives' brains are literally physically different. They are physically different. And so I can't wait to read that, and that will help me to understand how some people believe the way that they do when the other choice seems so clear to me. And I'm sure they feel the same way, that their choice is clear to them. And so I'm not sure if that answered your question or not, but if this is someone you still want in your life, you'll want to accept that is their choice, and perhaps going underneath to find out, so that you get from that place of, instead of wanting them to change, you want to understand them and to come up with questions that might help you to understand them better.
Yeah, and one of the things, just to mention, and if you can have any ideas about that, my daughter doesn't believe in UFOs. Mm-hmm. I am a total believer in UFOs. Yeah. In fact, if you said there's a UFO out there and they're coming down to talk to us, I'd say, oh, okay, finally. So, it's my daughter.
Yeah.
So how do I convince my daughter
You're
that UFOs are logical?
No, you will not be able to.
So I can't.
Yeah. You could just give up on that idea right now. You won't be able to convince her. But here is a possibility. she may at some point in her life open her mind to things that she's not opening to right now. But what I have found, and I'm sure many of you can see this to be true, is the more we push somebody to try to see things our way and they're not there yet, the more they dig in their heels, and actually we can cause them to close up their minds and hearts. And so I would say for now, skip along your happy path of believing in UFOs and let her be where she is. Because there literally is nothing you can do. You may be having the opposite effect of what you want by continuing to bring it up. I always say, find your audience for conversations like that. Like, I have very, esoteric ideas about things sometimes, and I know who I can talk to about that and who would not benefit from me talking about that. Okay, it looks like we have someone else back there, Tina.
When I reflect on the concept that sometimes when you try to make suggestions to people or try to influence them in a certain way, that they dig in their heels, it reminds me of being a parent, talking to your adult child, suggesting something along the lines that makes a lot more sense, only to have them go contrary. And if you try to use, quote, psychology and try to outsmart them, usually you get outsmarted. So it's a frustrating situation.
Yes it is. Yes, it is. And that's why I say let people be where they are. It's not my job to fix anyone or change anyone's mind. It's really not. It's my job to be the best version of myself that I can be and to live from my own beliefs, and to hang out with people who believe similarly so I can talk with them about these things. And some people say, oh, well, that's, so divisive. Well, I don't see it that way at all. I don't want to frustrate myself by trying to have conversations with people who I know are either not ready for it or don't want to have those kinds of conversations. I mean, that was why, that's one of the reasons that Mecca Page, Sean Vougeot, and I created New World Women, is we wanted women to have a place to come where they could talk as they are awakening in their own spirituality. We wanted them to have a place, because some people don't have anybody in their life that they can talk about spiritual concepts with. Somebody just said something to me last week that every family gets assigned a light worker. And that light worker many times gets to be seen, is seen as like the wacko bean in the family, right? And so, yeah, I mean, how many of you have had that experience? Yeah? A few of us here have, yeah, where we, have these spiritual awakenings and see this other way. We go beyond three-dimensional into fourth and fifth dimension, and some have gone higher. I mean, I think that the greatest that the human body can deal with at this point is the 12th or 13th dimension. And I'm sure someone maybe here or listening or watching the live streaming will have some ideas about that, but that is what I have been taught by two different people. So the idea then is, and it's so basic, we cannot do anything about anyone else. Literally nothing. The only thing we can do is be a model of what wholeness and oneness and love and beauty and joy looks like. And then people are either attracted to that, or in some cases they're repelled by it. But it doesn't mean that we should stop. We need the light. We need the light. There's a lot of darkness on this planet right now. And it's not about fighting. It's like light is eternal, and light naturally dissolves darkness just by being light. So just be light. I mean, that's the thing. And we can't be light if we are trying to convince people to change their minds about things, because it takes a lot of energy. It's exhausting, right? And then at the end of it, do you feel any better? No, you don't. And you've probably upset them too. So, all right. Oh, so asking these genuine, open-ended questions, and they can't be leading questions. They have to be genuinely open and honest. Because we can lead, we can say, oh, I asked a question, but the question that you're asking is kind of telling them the answer that you want. So it really needs to be an open-ended question. And the way that I deal with that, and I have done this in coaching, I don't think I learned this in the very beginning. I'm sure I didn't. But what I did learn is tell me more. Tell me more. There's no judgment there. And if you're really listening with your heart, you might find out what has heart and meaning for the person in front of you. Tell me more. Getting back to the political stuff, I think there's so much fear wrapped up in it. And fear is a block right there. And so let us be fearless and do what we believe to be the right thing for ourselves, for our planet, for others, for all of life on this planet. Okay. And then the last step of the PSDAR is reflect. And that's where you reflect on what the speaker has said and retain the information. And then I added to that, to really pause and take in what they have said. I like to think about it as bringing it into my heart. Bringing what they have said into my heart. The parts that feel like they belong in my heart. Okay, so you were talking about UFOs, and I'm not sure exactly how I feel about UFOs. I think when I was a child, I saw something in the sky that was unidentifiable, and I can see it as though it was yesterday. And so I guess that's an unidentified flying object, right? So there it was. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, I went to Mount Shasta, and I had a 3-day retreat with Stargate. I'm not sure if anyone here is familiar with Stargate. It's Julianne and Prageet, and they have hundreds of thousands of followers around the world, and they teach really beautiful teachings, and a lot of it is from other dimensional beings, and it's beautiful wisdom, and I don't really care where beautiful wisdom comes from as long as it lands and we can do something with it, right? So anyway, Stargate is I believe it's made of copper, and it's this beautiful shape. It's a triangle, and there are these sacred geometry in it, and so being there in Mount Shasta with Prageet and Julianne, they have a really big Stargate. A lot of people have little Stargates. I don't have one. I have a picture of one. But anyway, so they have the big Stargate, and they had all of us sitting really close to the Stargate. I think there were like 60 or 70 of us. And they took us into a very, very deep meditation. And so I was really feeling this sense of love, this sense of oneness with the whole cosmos. It was really beautiful. And these two blue beings came into my inner awareness. And they said that they had known me for most of eternity. They didn't say all of eternity. And that they wanted to show me something about how they connect with one another from their dimension. And what they did was, and they showed me, so there's a blue being here and a blue being here. And what they did was they faced one another, and they said that when they wanted to know what was in one another's hearts, they just walked through each other's energy fields. Now think about that for a moment. Think about what that would be like, to walk through someone else's energy field and to know what they are feeling, to know what they are thinking, to know what's in their hearts. I thought it was really beautiful. And so since we don't have that ability quite yet, I imagine we certainly could at some point, perhaps the next best thing is this active listening that we're doing. You know, it's like really being in that space of, I don't know, I see it as creating a sacred space of love when we are connecting with another person and practicing active listening. So pay attention, show you are listening, defer judgment, ask questions, and reflect. And so when we are deepening these relationships, there is a lightness that occurs. We feel heard. Don't you feel good when you feel really heard? I mean, doesn't that feel good? It's such a gift when you really feel heard. And so I always believe that that increases our light when we do that. And so what if we were to take this same formula of listening to other people and use it for our conversations with ourselves, our conversations with our bodies, and conversation with our divine spirit or higher power? So, because I can never take a concept and leave it alone. I need to see what else can we do with this, right? And so with ourselves, this first step is paying attention, and we pay attention to our thoughts. A lot of times we are so, influenced by everything that's going on around us. We're not even taking time to see what we really think about things, right? So we pay attention to our thoughts as the first step. The S is to show that we are listening. And this is where I love this concept of being aware that we are aware. Take a minute right now. You can close your eyes if you want to. And breathe into what it's like to be aware that you are aware. I am aware that I am aware. It's almost like we are witnessing our thoughts, witnessing ourselves. And who is that witness? That witness is our higher selves. Yeah, I am aware that I am aware. And then, in this beautiful active listening to ourselves, we're deferring judgment. We're not judging ourselves for what we're thinking. We are so hard on ourselves, aren't we? It's just cruel the way we treat ourselves sometimes. It's time to let that go. It's time to love ourselves, love our thoughts. The good ones, the bad ones, the neutral ones, just loving our thoughts. I mean, some people say, well, I believe in a loving God or, a loving spirit, loving divine. And it says, I'm not a big Bible person, but it does say in the Bible that we were created in the image and likeness of God. The image and likeness. That means we're like God, right? And if we're like God or like the divine or spirit, I know that word has charge, but for this example, if we are really like the divine, then wouldn't we be love? And wouldn't we love ourselves? How can we love ourselves more? How can we love our thoughts? That's what we're being called to do right now, is love ourselves. We cannot really, truly be loving and kind to others if we're not loving and kind to ourselves. And that's where those we gather with, those we spend our time with. We want people who are practitioners of love, being loving and kind to themselves as well, because then they're more apt to be able to do that with you and you with them. You know, people have said to me, oh gosh, Dawn, all these things you're asking us to do or suggesting, who has time for all of this, right? Well, here's what I would say. We're already thinking anyway. Why not change it up and do things that feel beautiful and lovely? And then all this stuff that's going on around us, it won't matter so much to us anymore. It's going to be happening no matter what. Who am I being in this? And never forgetting that who I'm being, who you're being through this, influences the swirl and the twirl and the crazy. It influences it. Okay. So, in this active listening with ourselves, ask questions, gain clarity. Have a conversation with yourself and say, is this what you really believe? Is this what you think? Is this the highest thought you can have about this? Just get clarity. Because sometimes we think things that we have not examined for a really long time, and it might not even be what we believe anymore. Okay? And then the R is reflect, revisiting the conversation that we've had with ourselves. And you know the saying, know thyself. Know thyself. We're so scattered sometimes. It's really hard to know yourself when you're scattered. Okay, we're going to use the pay attention, show you are listening, defer judgment, ask questions and reflect. We're going to use that with our bodies. Let's do it with our bodies. So pay attention to what our bodies might be telling us. Something's wrong. I shouldn't eat that. I should move more, whatever it might be. Our bodies are telling us stuff all the time. Are we listening? Sometimes we are. But sometimes we don't listen, and then other problems occur because we're not listening. And also, our bodies are fine-tuned to give us wisdom. Like we can, you know how people say, I feel it in my bones or I feel it in my gut? That's your body. And your body can really help you. So let's really pay attention to what our bodies might be saying to us. Show that we're listening. Literally, talk to your body. Let it know that you're listening and that you care. Love you, body. Thank you. Thank you for being a vessel to carry my spirit around in this world. Thank you, body. Rather than, oh, my hips are too big, or I have wrinkles on my face, or whatever it might be. Who cares about any of that, really? Doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. Oh, you had something? I'm sorry, I didn't see. Okay, wait, hold on. Oh, I thought you were stretching your fingers.
I was trying to frame the question.
Okay.
So we're talking about listening. A lot of times I listen, I hear, but then to make a change, you got to do something with what you hear. So you got to take some action.
Yes.
And that's where I'm not always consistent.
Yes, yes, yes. And what would you like to do about that? Like, what are you called to do now? You've told me what you've done in the past. What would you like to do now and going forward?
I guess to really just do what I'm hearing needs to be done, or that would be beneficial for me to do.
Yeah.
And not procrastinate.
And not procrastinate. Yeah, I mean, one of the best things I have ever heard, and that I do my very best to practice, I'm not perfect at this. I do my best. But one of the best things I've heard is to say, is this the best choice I can make in this moment? I do that over and over. And then again, an active conversation. Is this the best choice? And sometimes I choose, I'm thinking of like eating right now, are these potato chips the best choice I could make in this moment? And sometimes it is the best choice I could make in the moment. But doing that enough, we begin to fine tune it where, yeah, I think instead maybe some celery, which is salty and crunchy. I could do that right now. And I can have potato chips another time. I think it's when we have that whole thing of, oh God, I can never have a potato chip again the rest of my life. That's when we're like, I'm eating the whole bag right now because I can never have potato chips again. So yeah, the choice is yours. And then make sure once you've taken action that you acknowledge that and celebrate that in some way. Because it's a big deal when we make a change. It really is. And it's up to us if we want to or not. Okay, great questions, everyone. Thank you. Okay.
Made some great changes in her life. Great new place to live. Safe, secure, you've got a heated garage, you've got an elevator, you're taking care of yourself. You really are taking action.
And it's step by step, it really is. And, so was there, okay, I thought you were going back. So then the asking questions part, what do you need, sweet body? What do you need today? Do you need more water? Do you need more leafy greens? Do you need a nap? What do you need? Be friends with your body, And so that's the idea with active listening, is we want to form relationships that are really beautiful. And then reflect, feel into the conversations you've had, what you've learned, and how unified you feel with your body. We live outside our bodies a lot, which is not helpful to us. It just doesn't help us. And then spirit. So using the PSDAR again, the first is paying attention, creating a space for the divine to be heard, and then actually paying attention and listening, and trust the whisper of spirit. And the question I get a lot is, how do I know if it's my own mind or spirit? Just begin to trust. And begin to, here's what happens is when we are taking more time to have these inner relationships, these active conversations with ourselves and active listening, we begin to know, is this just my brain? Not just, I don't want to diminish the brain. Is this the brain talking, or is this something greater? Is this my higher self talking? And you begin to see the subtleties. You can feel it in your body. And then trust. Anybody have a question or comment about that? I know that's a real sticking point. No, you all got it? Awesome. Okay, good. Okay. And then in regard to spirit, show that you are listening. When I was in India for the 21 days in the silence being taught by enlightened monks that Tina mentioned, we did, we would start at 8 or 8:30, 8 o'clock in the morning and not finish till 9 o'clock at night, meditating, praying, learning, and listening to the divine was not always done in silence. Sometimes it was done walking in nature, which can be silent, but you would hear birds and leaves rustling and things like that. Sometimes listening to the divine was through humming, like making the sound of a hum in your brain. Sometimes it was movement or dancing in some cases to listen to the divine. And so it's creating that space for that to happen. Yeah. And then deferring judgment, just knowing, again, that the divine never judges us. Never, ever, ever. The divine is witnessing us, watching what we're creating. I don't believe in a small God, a small spirit, a small universal intelligence. I just don't. Who's picayune and says, you're bad because you ate those potato chips. I mean, come on. Is that the pocket-sized God that we want? I don't think so. I think it's this vast universal intelligence, or Deepak Chopra calls the void, whatever. It's just big and we're part of it. It's not keeping score. It's not punishing us. We punish ourselves and we punish one another. And that's something that I find quite irritating, is when people say, oh, God punished these people. No. If that's the God or the spirit that you believe in, then you're making it real small and kind of picayune. We want a bigger spirit than that. One who witnesses us and watches what we're creating. And then it's up to us what we want to create. It's very liberating. Okay. And then ask questions when you're having that conversation and that active listening with the divine. Do I understand you? Did I get that right? Is that what you mean? And then you'll receive the clarity that you seek. Talk to your divine like a friend. That's what they taught us in India. Bring the divine into your heart, into your life. One more comment or question back there, I think, and then we'll need to wrap up.
I just want to say that I absolutely love the topic you're on.
Thank you.
When we thought about, and when you started out, and the theme for the month is active listening, we've had several speakers come at it from different directions. But I absolutely love the idea of active listening to the divine. That is fantastic. And of course, my brain is racing of all the different ways that sometimes, in my experience, when the divine answers, it isn't like I was saying, hey, what's the answer? It just hit me like a ton of bricks. So I would love to pursue that, but it's kind of an amorphous, for me, concept. How do you communicate with the divine? But I love the concept.
Happy exploring. Just ask and you'll be shown the way, always. If you ask with a sincere heart, you'll be shown the way. So the last step in this conversation, this active listening with our divine, is to reflect, to take a few moments to revisit the conversation that you had with your divine. Take it in, integrate it, and then if there is action required on your part, take the action that you would like to. And let's be active listeners with ourselves, with one another, with our bodies, and with our divine. When we do, the oneness and the unifying effects are extraordinary, and they make us happy. They raise our vibrational frequency, and then the dense darkness of disconnection and separation transforms into the lightness and the light of connection and love. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn Morningstar. Thank you for your wisdom and your insight. So this topic was special for me, and the hearing part was extremely important to me. And one of my services next month, I'll talk about a trauma that I experienced about 3 weeks ago along this topic. But I'm not going to tell you now. You just have to come to the service. Okay, but now it's time to dig deep. We are an independent organization, purely reliant on your funds, your volunteerism. So as you're digging deep, I also want to remind you, you can go to the website and you can become a regular contributing member, and that helps really sustain us. If something's coming out of whatever, once a month, if you want to donate something every month, that would be wonderful. Then in our budget, we can kind of rely on it rather than this that sometimes we go through. Anyways, while you're digging deep, I'm sure Gary's got a song.
I will bring a cup of water. Here's the best that I can offer. In the dusk of coming night, there is evidence of light. With the pattering of rain, let us bow as if in grace. Consider all the ways we heal and how a heart can break. And it's empty. Yes, abide with me, and we'll pass the evening gently. Stay awake with me, and we'll listen more intently to something wordless and remaining, sure and ever changing in the quietness of now. Let us ponder the unknown, what is hidden and what's whole, and find and learn to travel at the speed of our own souls. There is a living water, a spirit cutting through, always changing, always making all things new. And it's empty. Yes, abide with me, and we'll pass the evening gently. Stay awake with me, and we'll listen more intently to something wordless and remaining, sure and ever changing in the quietness of now.
Okay, if you'll join me in blessing this green and repeat after me. God's perfect love, flowing through me, blesses and multiplies all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. Oh. Let's circle up.
My hands are still cold. I always get it backwards. Some people say it does. We were having the conversation here, should it be right hand up and left hand down and all of that. So let's just connect as we are. This is beautiful. Let's take a breath together. And then as we exhale, we feel the presence of this moment, remembering the parts of this message from today that resonate, so that as we go out into the world, we are better listeners, active listening to one another, to our bodies, and to ourselves, of course, and to our divine. So it is, and so it shall be. Namaste.